Start by loosening the center pin on the mount and removing it if you can. If you can't, don't worry, you will be able to take it out later. Then remove the 4 bolts that hold in the cross member. You will need to jack up the car to reach the back 2 bolts. Once you remove all 4 bolts, you will be able to pull out the center pin if you could not earlier. Unbolt your old mount and bolt on your new one. Place the cross member with your new mount to the side, then remove the battery. Once you do that, you will have to remove the battery tray as well. It only has a few bolts. Place a jack under the transmission and pump it up just enough to remove the pressure from the mount. Remove the 4 bolts that attach the mount to the transmission. Use a bit of lubricant, it should help everything come out. Once you remove the 4 bolts, take out the center pin. To get the transmission to drop down straight, I had to use 2 jacks. I just messed around with the height of the jacks until I got it to work. Once you get the old transmission mount out, install the new mount. Then move on to the back mount. Remove the center pin. After that, loosen and remove the top bolt that attaches the mount to the engine bay. Then slide under the car and remove the 2 bolts on the bottom of the mount. Once you do that, just remove the mount. Then grab the new mount and place it so you can install the top bolt. Install the top bolt. Then slide under the car and install the bottom bolts. Once you do that, just put in the center pin and tighten it down. Look in the description for the torque specs. Once those mounts have been replaced, install your cross member. Put the center bolt in, but don't tighten it down all the way. Put the other 4 bolts back in and tighten them down. I'll put the torque specs in the description. Then tighten and torque down the center pin. Pick yourself off the ground and reinstall the battery tray and battery. Move to the left side of the engine.
The left engine mount is located behind the engine coolant reservoir. Place a jack under the oil pan and jack it up till it touches so it will support the engine when you remove the mount. Put a piece of wood between the jack and the oil pan so you do not dent or scratch it. Remove the coolant reservoir by pulling up on it and place it out of the way. You will need to remove 6 bolts/nuts to be able to replace the mount. You may need to lubricate the bolts to get them to come loose. It was pretty hard for me to get the center nut out, so I had to remove the coolant reservoir holder. Once you remove the holder, you can just unscrew the bolts. You may have to mess around with the jack height to get the mount to come free. Just take your time, and once the engine is in the right position, the mount will come out. I suggest pulling on the pin while moving the jack up and down so you can feel which way is making it come loose. Once the center bolt comes loose, do not move the jack unless you have to. I also might suggest removing the center pin first and then removing the other bolts. It might be easier. I just did it in reverse. Make sure to pay attention to the arrows on the rubber things and install them the correct way on the new mount. Also remove the roll dampener and install it on the new mount. Hopefully you didn't have to move the jack and the center pin should go right in. You may also, again, want to try putting in the center pin last and putting on the other bolts first. It might be easier. I just did it the other way. You may have to play with the jack height to get the other pins to slide into the mount. Once you get it in the right spot and there's no gaps between the mount and the block, tighten everything down and you're done.